Hello, Philip Vanguard here, and welcome to the first episode of what I hope to be an ongoing series called the Barbra Streisand Review. I'll be reviewing Barbra Streisand's full-length albums and sort of talking about the production of each album, the historical context of them, and also discussing the critical and commercial success of each album, and also how they rank within her catalog of albums. The first album I'm going to discuss is her most recent and also record-setting album called Partners. Yay! This album is a duets album comprised solely of male voices. We have Billy Joel, Stevie Wonder, Josh Groban, even Streisand's own son makes an appearance on this album. And they sing songs that either are Streisand hits or songs that have previously existed but Streisand has made her own. So it really comes out to being a tribute to her career, and it's a great album, I think, for those who are unaware of what makes Streisand special, or if you're pedestrian, it's a good album to maybe purchase in tandem with like a greatest hits album. Two elements really come together to really make this album shine, and that is Kenneth Babyface Edmonds and Walter A., the producers on this album. And what they're able to do is refresh and dust off some of the old standards and reinvigorate songs and really create stories that complement two voices singing them. What I love is Walter A. creates this environment with his orchestrations that oftentimes is cinematic, it's vast, and it's suited to the Streisand way of performing, which is really grandiose. It takes you on a journey, and his arrangements complement her phrasing brilliantly. Then we have Babyface, and his contribution is adding this layer of modern sounds and freshening up and keeping it current. And of course we have his amazing background vocals, those layered voices, those textured vocals that he provides throughout the album, really providing this cohesion. I feel like the producers are refreshing a lot of the Streisand songs without making Streisand do anything that she's not capable of doing or hasn't done in the past. The album gets off to a somewhat lukewarm start. We have some songs that really just feel obligatory. We have, It Had to Be You with Michael Bublé, which to me, he's a great voice. He's in the same wheelhouse as Streisand, but from a marketing standpoint, he makes sense because when younger audiences think of a balladeer or someone who is known for just having a good voice, he's the one that usually is most recognizable. But unfortunately, it starts off with this pseudo big band and swing version of It Had to Be You, a song that Streisand sang in the 60s, and this version just doesn't work. It has this slow tempo, it never really picks up, there's no urgency, there's no real statement other than setting the tone and acknowledging that this is a Duets album. It's a very tongue-in-cheek way of saying we're going to be, I'm choosing the best Duets partners. However, once you get through the album, you're treated to some really sophisticated, really luxurious and syrupy sounds that are basically confections for your ears. Some standouts are my favorite, What Kind of Fool, which is the cinematic, gorgeous rendition on the 1980 classic. It starts out with the strings, and it starts out with this chord, the single chord, and it grows, and then more and more strings build on it, and finally the tension is broken, and it dissipates, and the strings sort of fall and slip and slide down the scale, and then we have Barbra's vocal entrance, and she's sounding pure and youthful and gorgeous as ever. Evergreen is a great example of Babyface and Walter A just re-energizing the song. Barbra, her vocals more or less sound like the way she's been singing it over the years. However, it's energized with this driving R&B beat. There's some kick drum, there's some really cool guitar on this track, and Babyface's background vocals are really sort of loose and smooth. And Streisand reaches some pretty impressive notes, especially during the climax. She hits this note that one wouldn't think is accessible or even available to her range in this point in her career, but she just sails. And another standout is The Way We Were. It starts off with this sort of generic classical guitar, but then, Babyface introduces these really round, resonant, lush synths, and these undertones that are just so appealing and warm and inviting. And the synth line, almost like an allegro, that sounds like it would comfortably fit on Lionel Richie's, Easy Like Sunday Morning or something like that, which really ties his presence on the song to the overall arrangement. Another great song is How Deep Is the Ocean, which is Streisand singing with her son, which is obviously touching. Like, I was a little misty-eyed when I first saw the promotional video, and it's a song that was introduced to Streisand via her son when he told her he was interested in singing, and let me tell you, he has an amazing voice. Like, all the vocal gifts that Streisand has, he has as well. Just ingenious phrasing, how he reads a lyric, and he's singing this Frank Sinatra song in such a way it's like almost I've never heard it before. It's truly just, I don't know, he's a great storyteller just like his mom, and his voice is silky and his riffs are so skillfully done, whereas many people when they riff, they're just singing, adding notes all over the scale. His notes that he adds are actually harmonically correct to the chords, and they're so effortless. And whereas Streisand's way of melisma and riffing is more subtle, he's actually really adept at riffing over the scale, which is really cool. And it's really great to hear them sing about their unconditional love for each other on this track. You could really hear it, and you could tell that this was probably done in one take. That's all you really need for a song like this. There are, however, some clinkers, some real head scratchers, namely Stevie Wonder. His appearance is more for prestige. I feel like his voice, while still present and strong, was actually pretty pitchy. And oddly enough, he was not flat, he was more sharp, because I feel like he's singing nowadays predominantly in his head voice, which produces this weird, almost nasal quality, and he was not pleasant to listen to. And he sings People with Streisand, and they give this version of People a bossa nova treatment, and it's kind of, by the book. It's not bossa nova, it doesn't seem legitimate. And then, for the most part, her song with, oh god, what's his name? Then she sings with Blake Shelton, and it's mainly a throwaway song. I feel like marketing-wise, he's the most relevant, or at the time was the most relevant, but the song is about friendship, and it doesn't have any weight to it. It's an original song, and it just doesn't, even the title is kind of, this title is I'd Want It to Be You, and it's sort of misleading. It's not about stepping out on your lover and, preferring your significant other to the person you're cheating on, which is something that Blake is familiar with. No, it's not about that one bit. And then the last real head shaker is Elvis and this virtual duet that Streisand sings. They're singing Love Me Tender, and I suppose this is a good choice. It's a smart addition considering Streisand and Elvis's unique history together. Their paths have crossed in this unique way. At one point, Streisand was interested in having Elvis play the title character in A Star Is Born, and it never came to be. And marketing-wise, when they were promoting this track did sort of have this implicit feeling of the duet that never was. And unfortunately, it's not that special or unique sounding. Part of it is because of the song choice. I wish she could have chosen a song that is not so obvious. Maybe she could have found something that was never released that they both have sung, or maybe something that isn't so famous, just to add that added sense of rarity. Elvis's vocals, I mean, it's the same. They just isolated his vocals from Love Me Tender. They didn't go into the archive and call alternate takes. One thing that's really cool about this track is the fact that she's singing a very rarely heard intro verse, and it's mysterious. The melody is really pretty, and it sort of goes into the rest of the song in a very elegant way, but it's not, at this point, the idea of singing with someone who isn't around anymore isn't so novel, and Streisand's voice isn't that strong. She's almost holding back in order to cater to Elvis, which is kind of a disappointment. That, and the fact that it's another Hollywood phantom duet. I mean, what is Hollywood's obsession with these sort of things? I don't know. In a time where Duets albums are essentially soulless cash grabs, this feels more like a salute to someone's body of work. And for Streisand at this point in the game to still have something to say musically, to still be creative and taking chances, is truly commendable. If you're a fan or a casual listener, go ahead, buy this album if you haven't already. It's a great introduction to Streisand's body of work. It's a good indicator as to what makes Streisand unique and special. And on top of that, buy this album in addition to a greatest hits album. This album is also a landmark album for Streisand because it made her the only performer in history to have an album debut in the #1 spot in 6 consecutive decades. Again, it's a testament to Streisand's timelessness, her staying power, and her relevance. So, I'm Philip Vanguard. You just watched the Streisand Review. Join me next week where I'll be discussing Lazy Afternoon. I don't have a tagline. Bye.